that. That's an opportunity for you to well, and we can answer any questions. I'm sure Laura will be able to do that at the end as well. And just for you to be aware that the session is being recorded today and is accessible to Cardiff University students and graduates. So I'll start presenting this, Laura, and let you get started.
Brilliant. Thank you everyone here today. What I'm just going to do is get my slides up, so just bear with me 1 second. For some reason they're not loading. But yeah, thank you all for joining us today. I hope everyone, obviously in current circumstances, I know the career service is running lots of great events and different things this week. So sorry about that. Here we are. Can everyone, Jane, can you just confirm that the slides will come up okay?
Yeah, that's great. We can see that.
Brilliant, so I'll get started. So thank you all again for joining. So my name is Laura, so I'm the one presenting today. I do apologise, I would normally have my camera up as well, but I've had a few tech issues and unfortunately my camera is just on my laptop is just yeah, given up on me today. But here's my face so you get an idea about what I look like. I would normally be here with my colleague Geraldine, but unfortunately she couldn't make it today. But basically we're both the graduate development officers. We both work with businesses and graduates across the region to deliver the Cardiff Capital Region graduate scheme. So in terms of what we're going to talk, so kind of gave a bit of a brief overview, but this just kind of gives you a bit of a flavour about what it is we're going to cover. So looking at the Cardiff Capital Region, looking at the graduate scheme, a bit about our background, like why it is that what kinds of businesses we work with, what graduates we've worked with, how also that we've adapted in response to COVID-19, like so many other organisations. And then we're going to look a bit more detail at some of the application processes, and kind of giving you a bit of top tips about what it is that we're looking for when you apply for our roles, video interviews and presentations, and also kind of giving a bit of look about what the top skills that employers are looking for in roles as well. So just moving on. So what is the Cardiff Capital Region? So as you can see, the Cardiff Capital Region, also known as the CCR, which I'll probably abbreviate over the presentation, was a programme agreed in 2016 between the UK government authorities to bring about significant economic growth in the region through investment, upskilling and improved physical and digital connectivity. And I imagine that's quite hard to get your head around about what that actually means and how that will affect you. And what I also wanted to bring up was this map to actually show you what the Cardiff Capital Region covers. So as you can imagine, obviously Cardiff is included in that and plays a very important role, but it also includes many of the other 9 local authorities within the area, including other big places like Newport, but also some more rural areas like the Vale of Glamorgan and Monmouthshire as well. So the Cardiff Capital Region covers a variety of projects, so not just the graduate scheme, but also other projects to improve transport infrastructure in the region with the improved Metro Central, investment in new industries such as the New Challenge Fund, and also the investment in the semiconductors industry. So this is a 20-year-long project with lots of innovation, lots of investment going on with benefit to the region. One of the things that has recently been launched is actually a challenge fund where businesses are invited to help local authorities and help the local government with some of the problems that they're having with coming up with innovative solutions, whether that's maybe a new technology or something like that. So lots of exciting things going on. So in terms of the graduate scheme, so the graduate scheme essentially is a paid graduate internship within South East Wales. All graduates would be inducted and they are part of a cohort with other graduates who are placed with a variety of businesses across the region. We have graduates that are from all degree backgrounds and opportunities for all different subjects. And basically what our role is is to help businesses in the region advertise their roles and match them up to the graduates. And in terms of other things you get from being part of the scheme, so you would get free access to a mentor via the Global Welsh Project, which is quite a new part of our scheme. So the Global Welsh Project allows you to match up with a mentor that has a link to Wales. And so even in this world where maybe face-to-face meetings and networkings aren't possible, the idea of accessing a mentor still is. All graduates as part of the scheme would also get a fully funded ILM qualification level 3, and this covers various topics such as project management, resilience, problem solving, managing change, and also a bit about finance as well. So I hope that kind of gives you a bit of an overview about what's actually involved. So it's a paid graduate role. It could be with a variety of different businesses and industries, and you would also get some great additions of being part of it as well. So in terms of why you should live and work here, so Cardiff Capital Region and South East Wales is a very affordable place to live, even considering Cardiff, which is the capital city. And I think a lot of things around COVID-19, even though we aren't able to have the same big sporting events and concerts and things that we, that the region is so well known for, there are still so many other reasons about why it is that you'd want to live and work here, such as the access to the nature, the fact that we're so close to the coastline, we're on the border of the Brecon Beacons. There's so many exciting things going on, and we're also so well connected to other parts of the UK as well. It's a 2-hour train journey to London, it's an hour's journey to Bristol. We're really well located, and with a lot of the ongoing investment as well, it's easier to kind of get around the region and more than it ever was before. I wanted to look at some of the businesses that we've worked at previously, and these by no means are all of these. This isn't the full list. This is just a very quick flavour of some of the organisations we've worked with, and so some very big employers and some quite small employers as well. And I know a lot of you have joined the session because you're interested in working in the public sector, and that's completely fine. And there are so many various opportunities in the public sector, but I wanted to allude and mention the opportunities that there were in small businesses, especially with the added responsibility that you might get. And similarly, we've worked with a variety of different organisations as well, and also housing associations such as Monmouthshire Housing Association. So the housing sector is actually an organisation, a sector that we've done a lot with in terms of matching up graduates to those areas and roles within those sectors as well. And just to give you, just to pick out a couple of these employers here and the types of roles and things that they've gone into. So Lovell is a massive housing and construction company. They're actually a UK-wide company, and they've placed 2 graduates with us. Spire Renewables has placed a renewable energy graduate with themselves, which is really unusual and interesting role. Both Front Door Communications and Nightingale have placed students in marketing and communications roles, and eTeach is an example of an organisation that they're not necessarily in the public sector themselves, but they work very, very closely in the public sector in order to do what it is they do. And I wanted to include some graduate testimonials. So we actually launched our scheme in September last year. So we've been going for just over a year now, and to date we've placed over 40 graduates in a variety of different roles across the region. And I just wanted to kind of share some of their experiences with yourselves in case you're thinking that this might be a scheme that you'd be interested in applying to. So we've got here Stephanie, she enjoyed that it was a great opportunity. You know, she wasn't expected to know everything from day one. You know, and the opportunity to develop those professional skills by doing the ILM qualification as well. So she had a really enjoyable experience on the scheme. Similarly, with Fergus, he liked that it was quite a well-organised scheme, and you know, that there was a good opportunity for further development. And Fergus actually was one of the first graduates that we've taken on with the scheme. And since we've started, the employer that he works with, Clifton Private Finance, has since taken on an additional 2 graduates. And Fergus has actually been involved in their training and their development as well. And, you know, he's been overseeing their work as well. So he's been given an enormous amount of responsibility in a short window and has really So it's a opportunity to see what it is that you're capable of. And looking at how we've responded in the wake of COVID-19, I think that this was quite important to address, because when we were talking to businesses, they were asking us, you know, are you still helping graduates? You know, we're still looking to recruit. Are you still open? A lot of organisations have had to adjust what they're doing. And yes, we're still very much open for business. We're working with businesses to advertise, shortlist and place graduates. And since the start of lockdown in March, we've actually helped 13 graduates get jobs, which is fantastic. And normally, as part of our recruitment process, we would hold assessment centres in one of the local universities and have up to 6 graduates together to carry out a presentation and a group activity. But in response to COVID-19, we've now asked graduates to prepare a video presentation to be delivered on Microsoft Teams. And instead of having face-to-face interviews with employers, graduates now have phone or video interviews with employers instead. That's not to say that face-to-face interviews never happen. Sometimes employers would still like to meet the graduate in person, especially if it was a job that can't be done from home, such as, for instance, working on a construction site or working in a lab. But for the most part, most of the interviews are taking place online. We've also adapted the delivery of the ILM qualification as well. So normally the graduates would come together as an entire group and participate in a session all day. And this would take place over a few days. And obviously, as I'm sure everyone is appreciating, it's quite draining spending a lot of time in front of a screen at the moment. So the delivery of the qualification has been broken down into smaller 2-hour chunks that is much more manageable for the candidate. The graduates are still able to interact and engage, and we are encouraging experiences. And so it's great to see how they've responded to that as well. So this is probably the part that you're waiting for, really. So actually, how does our application process work, and what does that mean for yourselves and what it is that you have to do? So firstly, you can apply on our website, and there'll be a link to our website at the end of the presentation as well. That's where we advertise all of our jobs. We also work with the university, so Cardiff University as well, to advertise on their jobs board as well. So you can also check your jobs board for any roles that you might be interested in. So you fill out our application form, and what I'll do next is give you a bit more information about the application form itself. The second stage would be is you find out whether you've been successful about going to the next stage of the process. And we say to candidates that if you'd like feedback, if you've been unsuccessful, we're able to give you some feedback as well. If you have been successfully shortlisted, you would be invited to the next stage of the application process. So for roles where we've had a lot of very good quality applications and we're struggling to shortlist further, we would ask candidates to prepare a video presentation on a set topic or a question. So this isn't necessarily what happens in all roles, but for some of our more popular roles, this is part of the assessment process. And for any other roles, or after the video presentation, the successful graduates would be asked to carry out a video or a phone interview directly with the employer. So the difference here is that the video presentation is carried out with ourselves, with me and Jerry, but then the later interview, the second interview, would be carried out directly with the employer. And then what we would do is at all of these stages is we would provide all shortlisted candidates with feedback and would signpost to other roles that might be appropriate or similar. We've also work with the university to help signpost to any careers advice services as well. So for example, if we can see that a candidate, perhaps they did really well, but they needed to work on some aspect of their interview skills, we would suggest that they get in touch with their careers service as well. So this stage, I wanted to look at the application forms in a bit more detail. So with our application form, our application form is for every job that you're interested in applying for, you have to submit an individual application form for. But you can apply for as many jobs as you see fit, or as many as you're interested in. And why this is relevant if you're interested in working for the public sector, is that we tend to follow a very similar application form structure as if you would see for many other public sector organisations, so local authorities, housing associations, but also charities as well. So in terms of the first stage, it can be quite daunting to look at an application form and then perhaps look at the job description and think, oh my God, I've got so much detail that I need to include. So the first thing we would want you to do is actually look at the essential and desired criteria for that job. What is it that they're looking for in terms of experience, skills and knowledge in a candidate, and see whether that is something that's relevant for you. And then when you're approaching that, the easiest thing to do is to brainstorm all of your previous experiences on a bit of paper or on your laptop or on a Word document. And it's easy just to kind of see everything written down in front of you and then see actually how much that you have actually done. So that could be whether you've carried out a work experience placement and an internship, being part of a club or a society, or being a committee member, for instance, maybe any other extracurricular activities as well. You know, were you a student academic rep? Was there anything else that you volunteered for? Did you do any part-time paid or unpaid work? So anything that you might have done, that this could include like waitressing or bar work. You know, did you ever help out at an open day? Things like this. Did you have any awards or recognition for your achievements? So, for example, for a particular project, were you nominated for Committee Member of the Year? I mean, these are just examples that I'm giving you here. That, you know, there could be a lot of other things that are perhaps more relevant to you. So, moving on to actually approaching the application form itself, we would recommend that you use the STAR technique. So the STAR technique is commonly used amongst all different public sector organisations, and you may have actually heard some of your careers advisors talking about it as well when they're giving you advice as well. And the STAR technique is brilliant because it kind of helps you break down your experiences that you have, and that allows you to kind of focus on what it is that the employer is looking for a particular skill or quality. So the first stage of it is to look at the situation that you were in. So describing a recent situation that you found yourself in, detailing the background. Then you look at the task, describe what needed to be done and why, what did you have to achieve, and then the action point. And the action tends to be the most important bit, because this is the bit that actually you are telling the employer what it is that you did, how you did it, and the specific actions involved. And then the result is looking at the results of some of your actions and the impact on the situation. And a great tip for the result side of things is to try and be as specific as possible in terms of what the outcome is. So, for example, if you were talking about the time that that you were maybe raising some money for charity, and how it is that you went about that, if the end result was that you raised £150, oh, that's brilliant, write that down. If you were at a careers fair and you were worried about the number of students that were going to sign up, and you said, well, actually, I improved attendance at society meetings by 30%, brilliant, include that. They're just some suggestions about what it is that you can include, and it's a kind of helps you be able to measure your achievements as well. So I'm going to give you an example, because I appreciate kind of seeing the technique like that. It's hard to see how it would be applied. So this is an example where an employer is asking you to show where you've used your problem solving skills and to demonstrate that in an application form. So this is an example here. So obviously this will be available to kind of read in a bit more detail afterwards. So I thought this would be quite helpful for yourself. So, for example, the situation that the person in question was working in the florist shop, and the problem was that the order had been mixed up and the flowers were being delivered to the wrong venue. The task was that the flowers had to get to the right place, and apologies had to be made to the customers. And the action, you can see what I mean, that this is the most important bit, the most detail has been given here. Actually, as the applicant, how it is that you dealt with the situation. And then the result here was you know, the good feedback from the customers and the positive recommendations. So that's brilliant. And what I wanted you to focus on was the amount of times that in this example that the person said, I was working in the florist shop, I told my boss, I spoke to both customers, I drove to venues, I gave both customers a voucher. And it can be very tempting when you're talking about a scenario or a particular situation that you're in, is to use the word we, especially if it was maybe you're talking about being part of a committee or talking about a group project. We did this, we did that. But the employer wants to see what you did. So even though it can be hard, try and get into the habit of using the word I. So hopefully that's quite helpful in giving you a bit of idea about using the STAR technique to assist with your application forms. And in the public sector, your application will be scored on how effectively that you meet the criteria. So the more detail that you can include, the better. And this is just a really effective way to help you structure your answers in a bit more detail. But as you can see, this isn't pages and pages of work. You know, this is just like a paragraph or two going into a bit more detail. And congratulations, you've got some great examples together and you're ready to submit your application form, but we don't want to be too hasty here. I know that relief when you've done the application form and you just want to send it off and just be like, I'm done. But really what you need to do is proofread your application, ask a friend or a family member to look over for any typos, punctuation or grammar. Sometimes if you've been looking at a document for a long amount of time, it's very hard for you to kind of go over it and try and correct it. So if you're able to get someone to help you, that's brilliant. And what you also want to do is save a copy of your application and some of those examples that you've used so that they're ready for any different job roles that come up and you can tweak them slightly rather than having to start from scratch. And in terms of the importance of typos, punctuations and grammar, I just wanted to give an example myself. So when I was actually writing these slides last week, I had them ready, I was good to go, and then I was checking them on Friday morning, and instead of writing the words let's not be too hasty, I'd actually written let's not be too tasty. So that would have come across very weird had I actually said that on the slides itself, which goes to show it's very important to proofread, whether that's asking someone else or maybe having a step away from the document and looking over it with a fresh pair of eyes. The next stage is that I'm going to look at perfecting video interviews and presentations for public sector roles as well. So if one of our job roles has received a lot of good quality applications, this will be part of the process that we use. We would ask candidates, we would invite them to deliver a presentation on a particular topic. They would be expected to deliver a 5 to 10 minute presentation. We would want them to have a structure to their presentation. We would want them to have done research and that kind of thing. But obviously with all public sector roles, there might be a lot of difference in terms of the format or what it is you're specifically being asked to do. But there are some general tips here that would be relevant across the board, whether it is that you're maybe applying for the Office of National Statistics or whether you're maybe applying for the civil service. So the importance to get technical, becoming familiar with the platform that you'll be using. Will you need to share your screen over the course of the video interview? Is the interview going to be on Zoom or is it going to be on Google Meet? Many public sector organisations will use Microsoft Teams, but it's important to get familiar with what it is that whatever they might be using. Of course, whoever is going to be carrying out the interview, they're not expecting you to be a tech expert, as this kind of way of doing things is still quite new for everyone. But it will ease your nerves and make you feel more prepared if you've kind of already checked out the platform beforehand, and maybe you can try out a call and try out some of the features with your friends. So making sure that your microphone works properly, making sure that you're able to share your screen okay, and making sure that you're familiar with some of the functions there. And like any interview, it's important to be prepared. Do your research as you would for any normal interview. The great thing about doing things virtually is that you can actually have your notes around you and the interviewer won't know. But don't have too many distractions though. But if it's helpful that perhaps on your screen or on your table or on your desk to have maybe a few keywords or a few bullet points that are within your eyesight that can kind of help you prompt you then that's absolutely fine. And there's nothing wrong with perhaps having a copy of the job description or your application in front of you to help prompt you as well. So even though this is very unusual circumstances at the moment, but you can actually use this to your advantage as well. Also, you may be at home, but the interviewer would still expect you to dress appropriately. You don't necessarily have to be in smart shoes or heels, but first impressions still matter. Treat this as you would for any other interview, to dress smartly. And I've seen a variety of these myself, so we always have a much stronger impression of someone that's clearly made an effort for the video presentation to someone who's just sat on the sofa in a t-shirt. Location, location, location. Think about, where are you going to be? Obviously, most likely you're going to be at home, but where in your home or in your house are you going to be? Do you have a plain background behind you? Are you sat in good lighting? Are there any distractions in your background? Have you got a messy bedroom? Yes, the interviewer is here to speak to you, but they don't want to see a messy bedroom or maybe your housemate walking in or anything like that. So make sure you've got a really good setup and that you're good to go. If you're conscious of everything, there is usually the option to blur your background as well. Punctuality, just like you wouldn't turn up to an interview late, we wouldn't expect you to turn up to a video interview or presentation late either. It's always good to log in 10 minutes early to ensure you're ready and that there won't be any interruptions. And also, if you are having any tech issues, you don't want to find this out 2 minutes before the interview is due to start. And body language is even more important in this situation, because you're not going to be sat in a room with your interviewers. They're not going to kind of get an overall picture there. So the impression that you are giving at that moment is even more important in the situation, and how you engage. So, for example, when the interviewer is speaking, be it smiling, nodding, using expression and hand actions. They don't want to just see you reading off a screen, and they want to get an indication of your character. And a top tip that I recently heard, which I thought was really interesting, then often when we're on a video chat with someone, we're so tempted to look at ourselves over the course of it, and we're not actually looking at the camera or looking at the person that we're speaking to. And what might be helpful is on your laptop or on your computer where your webcam is, to perhaps maybe have a sticker or have something to maybe, so that you have a point of focus that constantly reminds you to look at the camera, so that you're in that way you're much more engaged with the interviewer in that scenario. And obviously checking that your microphone works okay, speaking clearly, and don't use a monotonal voice as well. And I just wanted to check or go over some of the top skills that employers are looking for. So with the background of the Cardiff Capital Region graduate scheme, and I'm going to go into a bit more information on this on the next slide, that we place graduates in a variety of different roles, in a variety of different sectors, that all are looking for all sorts in terms of their graduates. So for example, we might be looking for a graduate lab technician one day, a graduate graphic designer the next day, a graduate trainee accountant and the day after that. So there's a lot of variety, and as you can imagine, these job descriptions and these job adverts all vary. But what we consistently see come up are the same soft transferable skills that all of these employers are looking for, as well as perhaps having the relevant technical knowledge and background. So having good communication skills, having good team working skills, good problem solving skills, the ability to self-manage and organise your time. So when I was speaking earlier about having that bank of examples, I think it's going to be very important to maybe focus on these skills especially, because this is going to be transferable across a range of sectors and jobs that you might be interested in. And many of the employers that we work with, they actually want the right person with the right attitude, and they're happy to invest in your training and development. They don't expect you to be an expert from day one, as long as you're able to demonstrate that you have the core transferable skills. And what I wanted to also address as well is that sometimes we feel that the degree that we've chosen perhaps limits the options that are available to us and what it is that we might want to go and do next. Or, that there's stereotypes about our degree and, that we can only go and do certain things. So these are all actual examples of previous graduates that we have taken on through the graduate scheme and the actual roles that they have gone into. So I think this is a really nice variety of examples. So we've had a biology graduate become a digital marketer. We've had a history graduate, become a trainee finance broker, and that was actually Fergus, who I mentioned earlier, who's now done really well and has passed all of his relevant exams. We've had a physics graduate go into renewable energy, and so on. So it can be a bit of a minefield trying to think where your degree can take you next. But, you know, the beauty of many of our roles is that they are actually open to graduates from any degree background. It would only be for a certain few roles, so for example, a mechanical engineer or a software developer, that they would need you to have a specific degree background. But many of our other roles are open as well. So I think that's everything now. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take some questions, but if anyone wanted to find out a bit more information on the scheme, there's my contact details there, and my colleague Jerry's. You're more than welcome to take them down. We've got our website here, so you're more than welcome to go on our website, and we've got some of our latest roles being advertised there. And have a look for the Cardiff Capital Region Graduate Scheme on LinkedIn. It's great for students to engage with LinkedIn, especially at quite an early stage, and get in the habit of maybe looking for companies and posting on there. So we always tend to post our relevant jobs and any updates about us on there as well. So what I'll do, I'll stop sharing my screen and then we'll go to any questions.
That's great. Thank you, Laura.
Brilliant. I hope you could all hear me okay, because sometimes my microphone cuts out a bit.
Some really great information. I thought particularly your advice around the STAR, which a lot of students do find that quite tricky. And then obviously your video interview tips as well was really good. And also, you know, identifying those top skills which employers have identified as well.
Brilliant.
Really useful.
Great, thanks, Jane. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? Don't be shy. Good opportunity now to find out, you know, more information about the graduate schemes that are available, but also any tips on applications or anything from Laura. I got a question for you, Laura. You obviously must look at many CVs. Any kind of tips you can give here? Is there sort of some just obvious kind of not so much mistakes, but what maybe students do wrong with the CV?
Sure. So with our application process, so we ask applicants to fill out an application form and then they're able to attach their CV on there. So we would ask applicants, there's like a supporting information box where it is that you kind of address the essential and desired criteria that's in the job description. And what we would want to see is that hopefully that, as well as going into detail on your application form, that you've actually thought to maybe tailor your CV as well. And also we want to kind of see the whole picture there. You know, we don't want to be, we see potentially tens and dozens of CVs for different roles. We don't want to be there trying to tease information from you in your application or in your CV. And sometimes me and Jerry have seen that all that they've maybe done is put like a job title and a bullet point, and we were like, well, we can see that would probably be a really interesting role and they probably would have got a lot of skills from that, but they haven't told us anything. And, you know, we're not mind readers. No. So we don't want to be there trying to tease that information out and work out, you know, trying to fill in the blanks ourselves. We want you to be as transparent as possible with the skills that you think that you've developed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. And remember, you can have your CV checked from us in the career service as well, and your application forms as well, if you need support with that before you send them off. Okay, any questions? We must have a few. Oh, very quiet.
Yeah. I can see
that someone's got their hand up. I can see the initial JP. James, I think. James, please. Yeah, feel free to put your camera on if you want, or just your mic and ask your question, James. Thank you.
So, will there be any more jobs updated on the website in
Hi, James. So I think we've got 4 roles currently live on the website at the moment, and we kind of update them on a regular basis. There isn't it's as and when we have that demand from businesses, really, when they get in touch with us. So it's kind of quite hard to say, next week we're going to have 10 jobs live or anything like that. But what we do is that we update our website as soon as those jobs are ready to go live, and have them ready to go as soon as possible. And what we are finding with a lot of our employers is that they're looking for graduates, in quite a short space of time. So what we are actually finding is a lot of our applications and a lot of the roles are actually, we've decided to close them a little bit early before the deadline. Simply because we've had large application numbers, and the employer is usually very keen to see what we get. So what I would suggest is, if you do see anything that you're keen to apply for, and it's only just gone up, to put your application in as soon as possible, really, to stand the best chance of being shortlisted.
Great. Any other questions?
Yeah. If anyone wanted to get in touch with me afterwards, I know sometimes you're in a situation like this and then you wish you'd asked a question afterwards, you're more than welcome to get in touch. My email was on the slide, but I'll just put it in the chat box here now.
That's great. Thank you for that, Laura. So yes, if you do have any questions, perhaps you want to ask Laura directly, then drop her an email as well. But I don't think we have any other questions. So thank you so much for delivering the session for us today, Laura. Really useful information about the graduate programme with Cardiff Capital, but also tips for the application and the interview stage as well.
No problem at all, and I appreciate there was quite a lot of information in there as well, and sometimes that you're just kind of digesting that and taking it all in. So yeah, I do appreciate that. I did kind of probably go quite quickly in some sections as well, but yeah, the recording will be available to view afterwards as well, and I'd recommend people just having a look on our website as well. We've actually got an application advice page on there as well, so and we've got some examples of application form examples on there. We're hoping to have some information put up soon about video interviews. We haven't done that yet, and there's also some graduate and business case studies, so as well as some of the people that I mentioned in the PowerPoint itself. There's also some other examples of some of the roles and some of the graduates' experiences there.
Yeah, that's great. And remember to use us in the career service with regards to gaining feedback, like I mentioned earlier, on your CV or your application forms. If you get through to the video stage, you can have mock videos with your careers advisor or employability advisor. So, make sure you keep in contact with us as well for support. But that's great. So thank you very much, Laura.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jane, and thank you to the career.
Yeah, thank you for attending. Thanks then.
Brilliant. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.